Hey, I'm Cyclon and this is a definitive guide to ranger leveling. Now in this video we're going to be taking a look at the ranger leveling, what is in my opinion the best way to go with it, why it is explosive concoction, why the nerf doesn't really affect it that much, 3 PoBs for different variant of rangers leveling and different ascendancies, ranger tips and tricks for the campaign, as well as the skill progression I am recommending for campaign. Now, before we getting into the video, if you learn anything useful in this video and you decide that it was a good watch, I would highly appreciate if you could leave this video with a thumbs up and a comment. It helps us for algorithm and helps this video reach more people it is helpful for. Also, one more thing I do want to mention is that in the past couple weeks, I've been working like crazy on learning every single layout that is relevant for an optimized campaign pathing. And I collected them all, made screenshots of it, learned the screenshots, made arrows on the screenshots, and put it all on the website so you don't have to go through the same process. You have all the layouts available, you have the optimized campaign pathing available, my top 10 layout recommendations, and everything in one place on my website, definitivguide.com. Hopefully that as well, just like this video, will help you have a smoother time in campaign. Now, let's get into this video and let's talk about Explosive Concoction. Now, in the patch, Explosive Concoction got a damage nerf, which is arguably huge, but it also got a buff. But before we talk about that, first I want to talk about why EConc even had to get nerfed, why EConc is so extremely powerful campaign, and there are 3 major factors going into this. First of all, EConc, or Explosive, is short for Explosive Concoction, and PConc, short for Poisonous Concoction, are attack-based skills that don't allow you to use a weapon, but in return, they scale similar to a caster skill. Spellcaster skills, such as Arc, Spark, or Ice Nova, have flat damage scaling with the gem level. And the same happens for Explosive Concoction and Poisonous Concoction, meaning they do damage on their own instead of needing a good weapon. So we as a player can utilize this to not needing to worry about a weapon for the entirety of campaign. We know that our skill will always be simulating the best weapon available to it at that gem level. On top of that, we get Shield Charge. Shield Charge, especially with Frostbling, is a very effective way to move through campaign. It scales not just with our attack speed, but also our movement speed. So when we are shield charging, we have good amount of movement speed with, let's say, a Quicksilver Flask, or we have Tailwind on the Deadeye, which gives us both movement speed and attack speed. We are basically double dipping for shield charge and we're moving around even faster. And lastly, Explosive Concoction is incredibly effective on our passive tree. It has a small core of nodes it needs to maximize its damage early on, and then all we care about is taking nodes that both are decent for Explosive Concoction and also are in the build we want to use in maps. So we need to respec as little as possible while having a really effective campaign time. And these 3 factors combined just make Explosive Concoction so powerful that it was used on basically leveling any attack-based build on Duelist or Ranger, and it was just super efficient. And now the nerf is GGG trying to push us into utilizing the gem as it was intended, because Explosive Concoction and Poisonous Concoction got their flat damage nerfed, but the damage based on flask usage increased, meaning it is about 1 in 3, not 1 in 3, 1/3 or 33% flat damage nerf on the gems, but the damage scales now better with our flasks. So for PConc it uses more percentage of our life flask, and for EConc it now gives us more flat damage if we have a Sapphire or Topaz flask we can consume charges from when using that skill. Now we only get those in Act 5, so to test how good EConc still is, I did a practice run. I actually did several practice runs at this point without Precise Technique, which is a 40% more damage buff. So we simulating an even bigger nerf than the 33 flat damage we are losing. And the practice run you're seeing in the background today is without Precise Technique and without Point Blank, which is 30% more damage. So we are running with a 70% less damage, and it still just nuked through the campaign I did. It is insane how powerful Explosive Concoction is, and in Act 5 we can even get a Sapphire to Path's Blast, mitigating the nerf further, which just makes it even better still. So this is why I still believe Explosive Concoction is the best way to level as a ranger. To summarize, it is extremely effective in flat damage. We don't rely on a weapon, meaning is one less thing to worry about in campaign. We have Sheer Charge, which is extremely effective for moving around, especially once you get used to it. And our passive tree is highly optimized. We take the minimum amount of nodes needed for EConc alone, and all the other nodes are overlapping with our builds afterwards. Now, in the description, you're going to be finding 3 PoBs. One using Explosive Concoction into a Wander, for those that want to go with Kinetic Blast or Kinetic Rain or Kinetic Bolt. We have Explosive Concoction into bows for those that want to go Elemental of the Spectrum, Lightning Arrow, or maybe even Tornado Shot. And we have an EConc into PConc of Bouncing or Toxic Rain for those that are looking more on a Pathfinder angle but still want a very fast campaign to get into Heist just a little bit faster. Now, admittedly, the third PoB for the Toxic Rain PConc isn't as detailed as I made it for BPL, but ended up not updating it for 327 as there were no major changes to it. It's still good enough, but I highly recommend to check out actual endgame build guides to transition into as you progress into maps and not just only rely on these 3 PoBs. Those are more, the campaign focus is good. The endgame on those is a little bit less, not optimized, but less researched, so there might be a couple mistakes in there. I just wanted to give that info out. I will be working on proper endgame PoBs in the coming days, but you can also use PoBs from other creators, of course, to transition into. Now, next, let's talk about a couple Ranger tips and tricks for campaign. Actually, the first one isn't even for Ranger. The first one is gambling, but my examples are for Ranger. Gambling is a huge power tool in campaign if you understand how to use it. So, what is gambling? With gambling, we can determine a specific base type. So let's say sword, we get a random sword. It can be magic, it can be rare, but it is gonna be a sword. Or we gamble for an evasion-based shield or an energy shield-based body armor. We don't know what base it is, but we know that we can force it to only require energy shield, only intelligence, only dexterity, meaning we can force the sockets. So we can utilize this in campaign to keep our gear in a very good state. The first time we have access to gambling, based on the gold we need for it, is right after Hillrake. If we have an average one, we expect to have 28 to 30 gold after killing Hillrake, which is just enough to gamble once. We can do this, for example, for a two-hand sword, which I recommend in the Ranger one, as it allows us to use Spectra Throw for the rest of Act 1, which is very powerful, and it will get us all the way to Poisonous Concoction, but more to the gem progression in a bit. So we have the two-hand sword after killing Hillrake. Then, between Brutus and end of Act 1, I like to utilize gambling to get a shield if I don't find a good shield of the vendor, or the ground, a 3-link, 3 green, so green, green, green for our main skill, and a second 3-link, preferably green, green, red, or at least a 2-link green, red for our sheer charge. And with this, we have the biggest hurdle of Act 1, getting our 3 links solved, and we are ready to tackle Act 2 and Act 3. When we get to Act 3, I like to force a 4-link at level 24. So when I reach 24 or at latest at 28, when I want to swap to Explosive Concoction, I'm gonna be gambling for a 4-link, preferably on body armor, because it's the easiest way I feel like to get a 4-link. At gambling fields on body armors, it's slightly more likely to get 4 links and later 5 links than it is on other base types. And then we are good with gear sockets until we realize, hey, maybe we really need to upgrade our gloves because we have socket pressure and gloves are the easiest to fix socket pressure. So during Act 6 to Act 10, I only gamble if I really need to alleviate socket pressure, or I really need some resistances on a specific gear spot, and I have not found any gear off the ground that can fix me in that regard. So that is the only reason I would gamble after Act 3. And then again in Act 10, or when we enter maps, or in maps, I want to gamble for body armor. If I have really solid gear at the start of maps, I gamble for body armor, hope to hit a 5 link. Otherwise, I gamble for helmet, gloves, boots, belt, rings, or whatever gear spot I need when really urgently need an upgrade for. So I look at my gear. Okay, most urgent upgrade is shield, so I gamble for shields first. When I have a decent shield, I don't need to worry about shields anymore until I reach T16 maps. So I'm not looting any more shields. I'm not gambling for any more shields. I will then only gamble for, let's say, helmet as the next decent next most needed spot. So then I use my gold for helmet and so on. And this results in me at the end of campaign, but end of maps, to have a really decent character. Resistances are kept. I have a good life pool. And I've just been able to blast without needing to worry too much about my gear or needing to utilize trade to get my gear. Now, with gambling out of the way as the most important thing, the next thing is an improvement to shield charge. Shield charge on its own is really fast, but it becomes even faster when we use it with Frostblink. The way shield charge interacts with Frostblink is that Frostblink can cancel the shield charge animation. It is the only movement skill that can completely cancel shield charge animation, so that's why we use it in combination. Now this means that we can move incredibly fast through campaign zones where we can dash with shield charge, where we have no walls, or we only have small walls or small gaps. But this leaves us vulnerable, or rather leaves us at an issue with long gaps, such as the broken bridges in Temple of Decay 2, such as the big skips in Act 4, such as the trial skip in Act 2 on Chamber of Sins 2, or the fancy skip later in Part 2. So we need a fix for those. And my preferable fix for that is having a blink arrow in my offhand. So I can do offhand swap, blink arrow, offhand swap again, the arrow lands and I'm already back on my main setup and I'm already continue zooming through campaign. It needs a little bit getting used to, but once you understand what you need to do, it's very effective and it allows you to not needing flame dash in your main setup. And having blink arrow in the offhand also means one less socket, means less socket pressure. Overall, really can recommend this. It's again needs slight getting used to, but it's very powerful. Next thing to keep in mind on your ranger runs is keeping your accuracy over your life. Whenever you equip a piece of gear with life, whenever you are intending to spec into life nodes, do check your accuracy. Make sure your accuracy is higher than your life afterwards. So I at least 100 difference in life and accuracy rating, preferably 200, just to be on the safe side. We have most of the accuracy needed planned in, but sometimes if you get really lucky with gear and you get a high life roll on gear, you might need to pull speccing into an accuracy node 4. So you do that first and then you continue speccing into your life nodes or equipping your life gear. The next neat little trick is aura swapping. I use both anger and haste during campaign. Now I can't reserve both at once. Only in maps start I reserving anger and grace, but for campaign I like to have anger and haste. So I use haste during zones, and whenever I approach a big boss, I disable haste, I activate anger, I kill the boss, I deactivate anger, I activate haste. So I have both in my control. When I hold control, I can swap between those two auras by quickly pressing Control Q into Control W or Control W into Control Q. And with that, I'm always optimized for damage when I need it, but also optimized for speed when I want to just move through zones quickly. Lastly, two things we do want to grab during campaign as a ranger, where we have option to take other things. We really want an Ember Amulet in Act 3 from Diala. This allows us to have the strength to use anger without needing to spec into a strength node. And we want to get a Sapphire Flask in Act 5 to counteract the flat damage nerf to Explosive Concoction instead of a Jade Flask, and we just need to get a Jade Flask later. Once we have that, we are good to go. Finally, let's talk about the skill progression and how we are utilizing it. When we start Act 1, we want to use Galvanic Arrow or Caustic Arrow. This is based on preference. I am a really big fan of Caustic Arrow, but other people really like Galvanic Arrow, so they are going with that. We only use this for mud flats, and we use this for Tidal Island. After that, we want to either buy or gamble for a two-hand sword and use Spectral Throw. The reason we are currently using Spectral Throw is it's extremely powerful for ledge, climb, lower prison, upper prison, prisoner's gate, and only starts to fall off towards the end at Merveil's Cavern. So we have a really powerful skill. We only need to buy the gem. We don't need anything. Don't need to buy any support gems. We won't be using for PConc. It is effective on our town, on our gem buying, and it's effective in killing in the zones. And he's a little bit getting used to, so I recommend doing a run or two with it through Act 1. And then at level 12, we want to force level 12 before Merveil preferably, we can swap into PConc. And the way I do it is the following. In my main set 1, I have my bow, which I will socket in my blink arrow to use later on. In my weapon set 2, I will put in my sword. So when I reach level 12, I will weapon swap. I will use a shield I have prepped in my inventory, place it onto the sword, which will de-equip the sword, move the shield in the offhand, and now I'm ready to use PConc. So I just need to swap the PConc gem with the Spectral Throw gem, add Chance to Poison if I have it on me, and now I have a 3-link PConc, and I can kill Merveil easily. Then at level 28, when I use from PConc into Explosive Concoction, by the way, do remind that you kill Gravicos here, we then have either a 4-link in our inventory, which is green, 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 red, where we then have our lesser multiple projectiles and our elemental damage with attacks already socketed in. We socket in EConc, then we swap that piece with the 3-link we have for PConc and just need to spec over volley. Or if we don't have a 4-link prepared yet, I would just gem swap Explosive Concoction with Poisonous Concoction. And then I would gem swap lesser Chance to Poison with lesser multiple projectiles. And this will get us all the way through campaign. So when we get towards the end of campaign, buy your gems you either need for your wander, for your boast, or look in heist in lab for your PConc of bouncing, or prepare your toxic rain gems in your offhand, level those, just the 1 or 2 main gems on top of the blink arrow still. And when you are done with campaign, level maybe in Black Advanced for 1-2, keep an eye out for good bows, good wands if you want to swap into those, and then when we are finishing campaign, we can do the respecking of the most important nodes from out of EConc, like the Fire Mastery and the Accuracy Wheel with resistances, and we can transition that into whatever important bow or wand nodes we have, and that makes us good to go into maps. All being said, the video was long enough. Hopefully it was informational and you are now prepared to face campaign with the PoBs and this video. And all this being said, have a really wonderful league start, and I'll be seeing you in my next video or next live stream. Goodbye.